The focus of this video is solving equations that involve using the distributive property. We're going to complete 1 through 5 together, and then I'm going to ask you to complete 6 through 10 on your own. Number 1, you should have the worksheet in front of you. Go ahead and copy down the negative 2x, and then I'm going to put a red box around the distributive property section. To signify the start of the distributive property section, I'm going to put a plus sign, and then I'm going to need 2 blanks. And then I copy down the negative 172 and the equal sign. And I'm going to use my 2 sets of parentheses. In this first blank, I'm going to put the negative 4. You want to make sure you include the sign in front of the 4. And that's being multiplied by the 5x. Then we have the negative 4 is being distributed to the 10. So I write negative 4 times 10. So the negative 4 was given to the 5x and to the 10. Then I'm going to go through and I'm going to multiply. Negative 4 times 5x gives me negative 20x. And negative 4 times 10 gives me negative 40. The next step is to collect like terms. And then I look at the coefficients. Negative 2 plus negative 20 is negative 22x. And then this is a negative 40, or plus a negative 40. The next step is to get all the variables on one side and the constants on the other. So this is going to be the variable side, because I don't want to take an extra step and move it if I don't have to. And I'm going to make the other side the constant side. So I add 40 to both sides. On the left side, I'm left with negative 22x. Negative 40 plus 40 equals 0. And then I take negative 172 and I add 40, and I'm left with negative 132. The final step is to take the negative 132 and divide it by negative 22, and take the negative 22x and divide it by negative 22. I get 1x on the left, and on the right I get a positive 6. So x is equal to 6. Number 2. Negative 2x plus blank is equal to negative 144. We have the parentheses, and then we have the positive 6 on the outside. This is the distributive property section. I take the 6 and I multiply it by the negative 2x. And then I take the 6 and I also multiply it by the 4. And then I multiply. Negative 2x plus, I get a negative 12x when I multiply, plus 24 equals negative 144. The next step is to collect like terms. And then I'm going to make the left side my variable side, the right side the constant side. I subtract 24 from each side. On the left side, I'm left with negative 14x. On the right side, I'm left with negative 168. And then the final step is to use the inverse operation of multiplication and divide both sides by negative 14 to isolate the x variable. I take negative 168 and I divide it by negative 14, and I get 12. Positive 12 is the answer to 2. Number 3. Instead of writing out the plus sign and then blank plus blank, what I'm going to do is what I'd like you to start doing in your head is I would like you to just think about what you're multiplying. I'm going to multiply negative 2 times the negative 6x, and I'm going to get a positive 12x. Then I'm going to take the negative 2, and I'm going to multiply it by 16, and I get negative 32. If you still need the addition sign and the blanks to really help you place the -2 and the -6x and show what you're multiplying, you are free to do that. But eventually I want you to get to the point where you can just see the two pieces, the two terms that you're multiplying, and just write the result, write the product. Now we collect like terms. We get 19x minus 32 equals -165. I'm going to add 32 to both sides. And then on the left side, I'm left with 19x. And then I take -165 and I add 32, and I'm left with -133. The final step is to do the inverse operation of multiplication and divide both sides by 19. And I get 1x equals -7. So the answer to number 3 is -7. Number 4, I copy down the -5x. Then I take the 5 that's outside of the parentheses and the symbol that's right in front of it, and I multiply that whole piece by the -x. And I get -5x. Then I multiply the positive 5 by positive 14, and I get 70. And then I combine like terms. Both of these have an x with a power of 1, so they are like terms, and I get -10 x to the first power plus 70 equals 130. Then I subtract 70 from each side. On the left side, I'm left with -10x. On the right side, I'm left with 60. And then the final step is to divide both sides by -10. And I get x equals -6. And then we're ready for the final problem that we're going to do together. Number 5, I copy down 5x. And then I multiply the positive 3 by the -5x, and I get -15x. I take the positive 3 again, and I multiply it by the positive 10, and I get 30. Then I combine like terms. The result is -10x. Then I use the inverse operation to move this constant 30 to the other side. On the left side, I'm left with just -10x. And then on the right side, I'm left with -100. And then the inverse operation of multiplication is division, so I divide each side by -10. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And I get +10 as my result for number 5. And remember, you need to complete 6 through 10 to complete your homework.